Right. So this class we are going to talk about testing with Jest and SuperTest. Okay. So remember that the last time we talked about testing and documentation, we talked about that in reference to using Postman. Okay. But this time we are going to talk about like testing, but we are going to use Jest and SuperTest. Okay. So how does testing with Jest and SuperTest actually work? So now, if you recall, when we wrote our API using, or when we tested our API using Postman, right? Let's say, for example, we want to try out register and login if it's working, right? We needed to write the we needed to go to Postman, go to the register request, then make the request. Then after, when the request is successful, we copy when the request is successful and register, we then go to the login, type in the username and the password, and then we press we send the request, and then when we send the request, when we get back a token, right, we then know that okay, this is working well. But it's possible to actually do the same thing, but without doing it manually, right? Instead of doing it manually, you can automatically do it. So by maybe running one line of code, a request is sent to register, then a request is sent to response, then your test will also check if the response contains some certain parameters. Then from there, we'll be able to maybe we see that, okay, everything is working well as expected and the rest, right? So that's what Jest is used for. Then in place of SuperTest, right, you might decide not to use a SuperTest. You might decide to use something like Axios, right? SuperTest is similar to Axios, right? But it just has some certain differences. Like for example, if you're using SuperTest, you don't really need to pass in the base URL for the route that you're testing. All you need to do is just pass the app, right? You pass the name of the app you're testing and then use it that way to test. As simple as that. And we're going to see how Jest and SuperTest works together. Okay. So I switched from using the Mac, right? So now I'm back to using Windows. And so that means I'll need to clone the repository, right? And then from there, we can then try Jest and SuperTest. So let me quickly do that. And then we'll continue. So I guess I'll just share okay, I think I'll just share my desktop screen. So let's see. Let me try and clone that now. and my share button is not working for some reason. I don't know why. I'm trying to share. Wow. Okay. So let me go to my GitHub. Let's see. Wow. Um, let me check. Is the verification code sent to me? Let me do that. So I've not seen any verification code yet, but I'm still checking for that. Oh, Mr. Timothy, you're saying the last class, the pagination class was not also uploaded. Ah, okay, so I'll find out why, right? I guess it will soon be uploaded, but I'll ask about why it's not being uploaded yet. I'll find out and tell you guys. But it will soon be uploaded, sure. Okay, so for some reason I am not receiving anything from these guys. Let me see if I could use my authenticator app to get it. Okay. All right. So I've been able to approve that. And then I think this should be it. Yes, that's it. I pushed yesterday. So I'll just need to claim it. Okay. So my documents, I know you guys can't see it, but then I think I'll just put it on my desktop. So my terminal, git clone uh that repository. Okay, and I also know that some things will be missing. Like for example, the environment variables will be missing. So if I come back here, I could actually steal them for myself. So if I come back here, let me go to my last commit to see, right? Uh, let's say 2 days ago. Okay, let me see this pagination class. Let me see. Um, okay, not the pagination class. Okay, so right, this is where my secrets are. So I could just use this. cloudinary name. So I'll change my screen, right, to VS Code when once it opens. So then I'll fill in the keys that are missing and then we'll start. So I think I need to reshare my screen. VS Code is opening up. And for some funny reasons, I can't reshare. Okay, I think it's reshared now. I hope you guys can see my VS Code. I hope you guys can see my VS Code now.
Yes.
Okay. So we're trying to I trust these authors now. I'm clicking on yes, and it's not allowing me to do what I want to do.
You need to tick the checkbox.
Okay. No, I've done it. So all I need to do now is after cloning it, I'll create my env.env file, and then this is where I'll put in all those details that I removed: the cloudinary name, cloudinary API key. So the cloudinary API key, I'll also put them under here. Then cloudinary secrets. Then another secret somewhere. Okay, email user and email password. Email user. And if you're using, I'll soon stop. I'll soon delete the email user and email password, which is this one that has been like exposed, right? And also this one, I'll also delete them so nobody has access to use my stuff. Then email password. Then one is remaining, which is what we use to for the routes. Auth. There's what we use to create the token. Okay, secret. Okay, so it's called secret. And of course, secret can be anything. So I just say secret should be equals to maybe random text, but without brackets. Okay, the email password would be the email password that was there already. Then the email user is going to be ukokjnr at gmail.com. Client secret is going to be cloudinary secret, sorry. Cloudinary secret is going to be this cloudinary secret. API key is going to be this API key. And then the cloudinary name is going to be that cloudinary name. So I guess I am done with this part. Then the next thing I need to do is npm install. Sorry, what I wrote install with one and it started installing. Strange. Okay. So it's installing the dependencies. Then I could then write npms. Okay, there's still one that's missing. One
Sorry,
that's
Victor.
missing. Yeah.
Did you remove the MongoDB URL from .env environment?
Yeah, that's the one that is missing. So MongoDB URL is going to be MongoDB colon / I think it's localhost with the 27017 / KodeCamp 3.30. Let me just call it KodeCamp 30. So if I run npm starts, yep, everything is connected well by the grace of God. Okay, so everything runs fine. We are
You are not
okay.
using the URL again.
Yeah, I'm not using the URL because I have MongoDB installed already on my system here. So
As well, you install it as extension or what?
how will I install MongoDB as an extension? It's not installed as an extension. It's installed as a full app. I installed MongoDB server and I
on your
installed.
system.
Yes, I installed MongoDB server and I installed MongoDB Compass. MongoDB server is the server itself that I like, is the MongoDB server itself. The Mongo Compass is just the app that enables you to interact with MongoDB. It's just like having my SQL server and then you have my SQL workbench. So my SQL server is the SQL itself. Then my SQL workbench is an app that enables you interact. It's a GUI, right? That enables you interact with MySQL. So it's the same thing with MongoDB Compass and MongoDB Server. MongoDB Compass is just the app, right? That has a GUI, a user interface that you can use to interact with MongoDB Server. So some people just have MongoDB server and they never have to, they don't put MongoDB Compass because they enjoy writing the query, right? Querying the server from terminal and getting the result they want, right? Or querying the database, right? And then getting the result they want. They don't want to use GUI, right? They don't want to have a user interface to interact with it. It's just like people that have Git and then people that use there are tools for Git that you can, instead of you writing
desktop.
Yeah, Git desktop that you can use maybe a GUI to interact with your Git instead of sitting down to type the commands, right? So it depends on your preference. Me, I like using the GUI for MongoDB.
Okay, please, I want to ask one thing. I want to remind that this 2701 is what part again? Is network
this 27017.
What is it again?
Is the port. Is the port number.
Okay, from that MongoDB,
yeah, yes, for the MongoDB. This is the default port. Anytime you install MongoDB on your system, like on MongoDB server on your system, the default port is 27017.
Fixed for all or for particularly?
Yes, fixed for all, except you yourself decide to configure it otherwise. But the default configuration, right, or the default port for your MongoDB is 27017.
So KodeCamp _3_0 is your path.
Yes, this here is the database name.
Is it parts on your system or which database?
No,
okay, the database on MongoDB.
Yes, it's the database on. So once it connects to MongoDB, it is going to create this database if it doesn't exist. And then if I register someone now, it will create the user's collection under this database and add the person's details there.
I want to know, this is your database. That KodeCamp 3 is the database listing. The one you created on the database. Okay.
No, I don't need to create this on the database. If it doesn't exist, it is going to create it automatically.
Okay. Because me, right from the onset, I had installed that MongoDB, so I don't really know whether it's created mine, but I just
yeah. If you want to still use the online one, you can use it. If you want to use the one offline, then that means after coming to change this MongoDB URL, you will need to log in. You need to you need to register a new user, log in with that user's detail, and then use that user's token to do whatever I want to do.
Okay,
I hope you understand.
well, I'm not really understand very well. This is the KodeCamp _3_. How did you register to get it? How did you register it on MongoDB site there?
No, this is offline, right? I don't need to open MongoDB Compass and create the server, and create that database. Even if I type, excuse me, sorry, even if I type, whatever I type here, right, is going to be taken as the MongoDB database name.
Okay, you typed it here yourself.
Yes, I typed it here myself.
Okay, but it will initialize on MongoDB.
Yes, if it doesn't exist, it will be
if
initialized.
It doesn't exist.
Yes.
All right, I got it now.
Okay. So is there any other question? Who else has a question to ask? Okay. So there's no other question for now, right? Okay. So I think we should get started with Jest, right? So to install Jest, right, you just need to type npm install Jest, but then we'll go for the latest what do they call it, the latest version. So you write npm install Jest at latest. So in order to do that, let me do it down here. You'd say come here and write npm install Jest at latest. Okay, and then that's going to install Jest, right? Then the next thing you need to do is you need to install SuperTest. And remember what I said, if you don't want to use SuperTest, you can use Axios, right? So you can simply, after this installs, you can simply come here and write npm install SuperTest. Okay, and then to make to start testing, right, you can describe the tests and then make assertions. So assertions is like, okay, this should be equals to this should be equals to that should be equals to, like, what you're going to use to evaluate maybe the response of your API. Or now, Jest is not just used only for API testing, right? You can use Jest to do any other kind of testing, like split code, or maybe you've answered any of those algorithm questions on different sites, right? Most times they can use Jest, or they can use Mocha or Chai. Those are like other libraries you can use for testing. They can use any of those libraries to test for your answer to a particular question, if it is correct, right? So the whole use for this for Jest is, right, you can pass an input, right, and then you can get an output from your test, right? So that's how you mainly test something, right? You give it an input, and then there's an expected output, and then when that maybe function or that API returns an output, you then compare the expected output with the output that was returned. If they are the same, it means that particular test has been passed, right? If they are not the same, or if they result is not what you expected, right? Then it will show you that, okay, this particular test didn't pass, and then this was the expected result for that particular test. Okay. Okay, is Axios also not used to communicate with server and clients, or it can be used for testing? Okay, Timothy Alabi, I've seen your question. So yes, Axios is used for communicating to the server, but then what if you want to test, right? What if you want to test your server, but you don't want to use SuperTest to make the request? You want to use something like Axios, right? Then it's not bad. You can use Axios to make your request and then get response. And I'm even more conversant with Axios than SuperTest. So let's even use Axios here. Let's use Axios. Then later on, maybe we can also try SuperTest. So let me just do npm install Axios and then SuperTest. So let me install it too, so that anyone that wants to use at a particular time, you can actually just start using it. Okay, so that's as finished installing, and then you can actually go on. Okay, so what do we start doing first? What do we start doing now? The next thing is we can create a test folder, right? And that test folder has to be __ test. See what I mean? You have to start with __ test __. So once you create a folder like this, right? Just anytime it wants to run tests to understand that, okay, this folder is a test folder, and then anything that's inside this test folder is what is actually going to run. Okay, then you can create files inside that folder. So you can say, for example, you can say auth dot I think it's .test.js. Yes, so you can name it. Maybe let's say I want to do authentication test, which is testing login, register and login. I could say auth.test.js, or I could say auth.spec.js. So auth.spec.js or auth.test.js is going to be regarded as a test file, which you're going to use to run your test on. So I think I like using test.js. Then the next thing for you to do is import what you want to use. So const Axios is equals to require Axios. If you want to use SuperTest, you can say you can import it here also. Okay. Then like someone asked the question too. So let me check. Timothy is asking if I will teach about Redis. Well, I'm not sure I'll teach about Redis, because Redis is like, let's say Redis is for advanced. This is kind of beginner stage, not advanced. So if we are going to talk about Redis, so we'll talk about Redis database, publication and subscription, this thing, and all those stuff, then if we want to also do Redis, that means we also talk about things like WebSocket, maybe web transport and the rest. But that's beyond the scope of this this class, right? So I'm not sure we are going to actually do that for now. Okay. All right. So let's continue. Okay, so let's see. How can we make that test, or how can we test what you want to do? The first thing is you can actually write, you can just start writing your tests, or first you can describe the test before writing like the main test itself. So there's the describe keyword, there's test keyword, and then there are other keywords that we'll talk about. I think we should just write test instead of trying to describe before testing, right? Let's just write the test. So how do we write like tests here? I hope this, okay, no other question. So this is what, if you want to write a test, you can just say tests, right? And then inside this test accepts two parameters. The test accepts a string, which is like a description of maybe what you want to test, right? And then the second parameter is going to be a function, which is going to contain whatever I want to test, okay? So we can do something like this, test to see if the registration works well, right? So then after that, you can mark this callback function as an async function. You'd say async, you can make it an arrow function. Then in here is where all the whole magic happens, right? If we were to use SuperTest, then we would have exported this app here, right? Would have come down here and would have written module.export app so that we can actually use it inside our test. But since we are using Axios, we don't need to import anything from here. But then I'll show you how to do the same thing, but using Axios, using SuperTest. But let's start with Axios. I think Axios is what we can actually relate more with. So we would say const response should be equals to await. So now this is not much different from how you test using something like Postman. The only difference is that this one is automated. So instead of you trying to test the routes one by one manually, you can just run one code, right? Or a line of code, and then that line of code tests everything that you need. Okay, so we'll say await Axios dot post Axios dot post, isn't that post this Axios dot, is it Axios dot get or post? Is that how I'll get it? There's supposed to be a post. Okay, so for some reasons, I don't know why the post isn't showing up. Let me check if this is installed. Okay, so let's just continue. Let's see. If it fails, then we'll know what to do. We are sending the request to http:/localhost 4000 /v1/auth/register, right? Because if we check here, v/v1/auth/register, and register requires full name, email, role, and password. And what is it going to send us back? It's going to send us back a status of 201 and a message of created successfully. So we can check for these two here, right? So we can do something like this. We can say during our registration that we are going to send a what are we sending? We're going to send a full name, email, role, and password. And remember, role is optional, right? Full name, email, password. That's what I'm going to send. So come down here and say full name. Full name can be Victor. Email can be ukokjnr@gmail.com. Password can be Victor1234. Okay, so okay, sorry. Password can be Victor1234. Then how do we test the response, right? How do we test it? We can then say, we can use the word expect. We would say we are expecting response.status to be (201). Then we are also expecting the response.data to be so in here we would say, is it created successfully, right? Which is what we have here, created successfully. Okay, successfully with capital S. Okay, yeah. So with what we've done, we've written a simple test, right? Which we can use to get or test the register aspect, right? We can also decide to test the login, but let's try the register first. So how now we've written this simple test, right? Remember, this test is just saying that this is a whole test, right? The test comes with the description and then the function to actually test out what you want, right? Then after making your request, you can use SuperTest, you can if you don't want to make this async await, you can use promises like denable functions, right? Then you can say expect this to be 201, expect whatever you want, expect maybe data to be created successfully. Okay. Then for you to run this, you come to your package.json, and you see this place for tests. It's saying tests error, no test specified. Then after that, you should exit. You can change this and you can name this it's npm jest. Yeah, I think that should be npm jest. So at this point, if you come to your terminal and you run npm run tests, right? Now, this is going to automatically, this function is going to automatically start up your server and try to run your tests. Okay. It doesn't, if there is going to be any issue, you're going to see it from here. So let's see npm, what is it saying? Unknown command jest. I think it's npx jest. Okay. All right. So can you see test suits? The first test passed, which means it returned 201. The second test passed, and it's returned created successfully. But then let me check my database to see if it actually created anything. So I'm going to MongoDB. I'm trying to open my database to see if it actually created that user, right? So another thing you can do is after when you finish creating your user, you can clear out the database. You can delete the information it just created, right? That's like kind of also maybe a little bit advanced. You can import the your auth model, right? Or your auth schema. You can import it, right? Or this user schema. You can import it here and say after when it has registered, then you can delete whatever was saved there, right? It just depends on you, or you can just allow it to be there, then later you manually delete it. I hope you guys are following. Hello, are you guys following? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so now if you come here and you come over to users, you see that it actually created that user with the username of Vic. You guys are not seeing that. Sorry. Let me share that screen with you guys to see. Okay, you can see this is a KodeCamp 3.0 that I created, right? The database that I tried to connect to, right? If we come over to users, you see that there's a user with the full name of Victor, the email of ukokjunior@gmail.com, the role of user, and then the password. I hope you can see it, right? Then you can also test your login, right? So you can write maybe your login test under there. So if you want to test your login, that would be you coming down here to write test. Okay, yeah, you say test, and then on here you would say test to log in a user, right? Then here you can say async. Then after the async, you can say const response should be equals to await axios dot post, and then that would be you're posting to http://localhost 3. Okay, what is it? 3000. Okay, 4000 v1/auth/login, right? And then what does this accept? Let's see. It accepts an email and a password. Okay, so you can come back here. You can make that. You can say email should be ukokjunior@gmail.com. You can say that the password should be the original password, which is Victor1234. Okay. Then what do you want to check for the response? You can say we are expecting res.status to be 200, right? And then we can expect that the type of res.data should be an object, right? So we can expect that the response should be 200. The response data should be an object. There are still other ways to check if the response contains a particular maybe a particular what do they call it? A particular property, right? You can check if a response contains a particular property, and then you can use that to maybe do whatever you want to do. Maybe check if that property is there, then it means that it returned the right response. If it's not there, then it returns the wrong response and the rest. Okay, so let's try this, but then let me delete this user, right? And then let's try it again. Let's come back here, and then let's make that test. So npm run test. Okay, so it said which one that's that there's nothing like RAS, that is supposed to be response, not RAS. So let me come back here and refresh this, right? And then let me come back here. So this is supposed to be a response. Oh, sorry, response. Response, this response, this is response. Response.data, okay. So I can come back here and try to run that test. And you see that the two test cases passed, right? So the test passed, test suite is test suite, just one test suite, right? And then that test suite contains two tests, right? So one test one test suite, and then we have two tests inside that one test suite, right? And then we have that it passed the first one, and then the second test also passed, right? Okay, the two tests inside that test suite also passed. Okay, so if we come back here, of course, yeah, it's created that user and everything went on well. Okay, so then you can create more and more tests. You can decide to divide them into different files. Like for example, you can test adding of tasks and removing of tasks and the rest, right? So you can do it in the same file, right? You can create another file and put it in and then test. That's like totally up to you. Okay, so Ladel, you're saying your test failed. So why did your test fail? What is the reason your test failed? What is it telling you?
It's saying connect icon refuse. Then double colon 1 4000.
You said what?
Connect icon refused.
Econ refused.
Yes, 1.4000, 1.4000.
Okay.
Is that not error connection?
Okay, I think that should be an error connection. I think that should be something that has to do with your browser, I guess.
Or network safe?
Yeah, or maybe network. Are you connecting using your local Mongo database or the Mongo Atlas?
Locals. I'm using locals. Okay, I'm supposed
Okay.
to use class link. Am I supposed to use a class link there
Which one?
for the URL? Address post.
I don't understand.
You are asking whether it's Mongo or
Yes.
local.
No, are you using the local MongoDB?
No, I'm not using the local MongoDB.
Okay, so like, is it connecting? Is the one online connecting?
Do I have to connect first before running the test?
And Well, I think, okay, try and start up your server first. Try and start up your server, then run the test. I think SuperTest is the one that actually starts your server automatically. I can't really remember. Start up your server and then run the test. Then see if it is going to pass. Are you doing that?
Yes, I'm doing that.
Okay. So that's a simple way for you to actually run your different tests, right? In fact, that's like the most simple way to run your tests. There are more other ways, right? Or more other assertions you can use for your test, right? But this, what I just showed you guys, is like the very basic, right, way to assert. Assert is like checking if something is or something has a particular value, or something is like correct or not, right? There are more and more other ways to assert. Now, what I'll tell you guys to do more is you can go to the documentation, right, and read more, read a lot, because this is just like, this is the introduction. I just tested the login, the register, right? You can test even more. I think I should just maybe do, let's say, 2 more tests, right? Maybe I'll just test getting and posting, right? I think I'll just test get and post. Okay. Now you remember that the you need to have an API key to test when you're logging, when you're logged in, right? You can have a spare API key somewhere in which you can just pick and use for test, or you can write the test. Yeah, there are 2 ways to do it. You can get the API key from this response and make another response, and then another request, and then test everything inside here, right? Or you can decide to copy the API key and maybe keep somewhere, maybe as a variable somewhere, and always reference that key anytime you want to test it. Anytime you want to test for route that you need to log in to test. So this is what I mean with, I think the first one I said. So you can do something like this: test add a task, right? Add a task and the async. Then inside here, you can say the same thing, response equals to await axios.post. Then you can say http:/v1/what, http://v1. Okay, so we come here /. Okay, so Ladel, I'm seeing okay, so Timothy asking, must the response code tally with the request code? Well, there's no request code, right? What you're doing here is you're just comparing if the response status code is 200. You're not sending this 200 like down to the server. What I'm writing here under here right, is just to compare. This is like assertions, right? Like comparing if what we expect is what we are getting back. Like I expected 200 and then 200 is what I was given back from the response. So I mark that as being correct. I expect that the response data should come back as an object, and it came back as an object. So that's I'm okay with that, right? So I'm not sending any response data to the database. What I'm just doing is I'm just comparing what has been sent back, if what has been sent back is what I actually wanted. Okay. So you're asking, you're asking, do I run tests when the database is connected? Yes, now. When the database connects, that's when you then run the test, because it's actually going to make requests to your API, and your API needs to communicate with the database to do whatever it wants to do. Okay. So and notice what I wrote here. I wrote npx jest, not npm jest, npx jest. So it would pick it up. So here, what do? I would say, what does a task need? A task needs a task title and a task body, right? So here I would say this is task title. We say sample task, then the task body. The task body is going to be my task body. Okay. Then what was the response we're supposed to get from the task, right? What was the response? It's request successful, and then the new task. So where is it? Okay. So how do I check here? I think just give me a minute. Okay, so now let's check first. We can say something like this. We can say expect we are expecting that response dot data dot is successful, right? Should be true, right? And then I think I should just check on that, right? So, but now most tests might be even more complex than this, right? You have expect this to be truthy, expect this to be that, expect this to have something. like that, like that, like that. But my test is quite loose here, right? It's not that very, it doesn't have all the advanced stuff for now, right? So to add a task, I'll add it and then I'll expect that to be true. Then I could test to get a task. So I could say, check a task. Okay, check, or let's say get task. Now, for this one, for this particular one, remember that we need to pass in an authorization token. So we can come and first test using test.rest, right? I just say test.rest, then come here. I'd say it's a post request http // localhost 4000 then I'd say that the content type here should be application/JSON. The content should be email. Email should be bookofjunior@gmail.com. And then the password should be Victor1234. Okay, so this is 4000, not 3000. Okay, so I've signed in successfully. I can come and copy that token on my auth tests. I could just say authorization bearer, and then that long string. And I think I should just on the word wrap, so that everything will just be like that. Then here I could come here and add the header. So I'd say authorization, right? Authorization should be that authorization. And I could do the same thing here. I'd say that the authorization would be that authorization that I did at the top. Then I could just copy this and paste here, right? But then this is going to be a GET request to that task. Of course, remember that a GET request doesn't contain a response or a request body. So then for getting tasks, what do I get? What do I get? I'll get the list of tasks. So I could check I'm just going to simply check only for the status. I'll just say response.status should still be 200, because if it's not 200, then it means something bad happened. Then I could still expect this to be an object, because an array is an object. So type of response.data should also be should be an object. Okay, so you can add a task, you can get a task here, you can log in, you can register, but then after testing login and registration, when we are going to add a task or get task, we already have our authorization token here, right? So let's once again test it. So I could say npm run test. It's saying one test suit, the 4 of them failed. Okay, so why? Okay, that's because the email that I'm trying to use to register already exists, right? So I have to come here and delete the user because I didn't want one. I made the email field unique, right? So you see, just one thing can make all your tests to fail. Okay, so what is it saying now? Add a task, request failed with 401. So you see, it's showing us what passed. So to log in, to register, to log in work, but to add a task and to get a task didn't work, right? So both of them failed with the request, with the response code of 401. So what does 401 mean? I think 401 has to do with the authorization, which is this. So I guess I just need to put them inside here. I think that's what it actually means. But then the registration and login work. So I'm also deleting from the database, right, as I'm doing it. Okay, it's saying authorization is not defined. Okay. So let's see how we can solve this. So if I say that the authorization is bearer token and the same thing here, that's the, or was it authorization? Let me check. So to check if someone is logged in on the task, I used is user logged in, and I said authorization header is request the headers dot authorization. Authorization in small letters. Okay, not in capital letters. So I guess that's my error. So I was supposed to say authorization here and then authorization there. Then say it should be bearer and that. So let me come back to my database and delete again. Then let me run the test and see. All should pass now. So it's still saying, it's still talking about authorization. So this is an authorization issue, right? Oh, okay. So I needed to remove that. And then let me clear my database one more time. Then let me try to run the test now. Two passed, but two failed. And they are still failing with 401. Okay, so there's an issue somewhere. There's an issue somewhere. There's an issue somewhere. So let me see if I so I think I was supposed to write headers here. So let me see. There's something I'm missing out here on, which I'm trying to figure out. Sorry. If I said headers and I said authorization here should be so let's see. Because now what is happening is that the back end isn't seeing the authorization here, right? It isn't seeing this string here, which is this authorization. So that's the reason why it's giving me all the error, the 401 error. So let's see if I could do the same thing here. Headers, authorization, that authorization. Then let me delete what is on my database. 3 passed, but 1 failed. So expected true, but received undefined. Right? So response.data.is successful. So let's check. That was on which route? Data.is successful on the task route to add a task. So let's come here to the task route. Let's see. Oh, it's supposed to be is request successful, not is successful. So I guess that's an error from me. So this is one thing. When you're writing tests, also be very careful, right? Always be very careful, because if you don't write your test well, you might be stressing someone else, right? You might be stressing someone else's life, trying to make the person to write code that will make the test to pass. Meanwhile, the test is not correct. So you have to be very careful when trying to write tests. So let me go back and delete what I have in my database, and then let's try again. It's still saying is request successful. I think I should just come here and copy this. Where is it? So let's see. Let me clear the database again. Yeah. So there was a typo here. I don't know, but then all my tests has also passed. So guys, you see that's how to test using using Axios. Okay, we are not even using. Okay, we didn't need to even call Jest here, right? But we are using it. So right, that's how to run your test. Now you can try this with SuperTest, but SuperTest is different. Remember I said that if you're writing SuperTest, you need to export something here. So you do something like this. You'd say module.export equals to app. Then in where you're actually testing your code, you can then come and say const request should be equals to require SuperTest, and then you can say const app should be equals to, let me not use app, I'd say, okay, yeah, I'd say app because it's default, require dot slash index. Then here, let's say you want to just test only the register, for example. Let me comment on the rest of this except the register. I want to test the register using SuperTest, right? So you'd say response will be equals to request. Then after writing request, you then say request, you remove all that, and then you'd say app. Let me just comment on this first. Then you say .get, then you will now specify the route you want to get from, which is going to be /v1/register. Then you then say dot, I think it's set. So guys, just give me a little while, I'm coming. Okay, so this is going to be send, and then what you're going to put in here is going to be the object, which is the username, full name, email, password, and the rest, right? So this is going to still work the same way Axios work, right? So it's a, but here you're not putting the name of the, like the base URL. The base URL will be gotten from this app here. So if you want to send a header, like for example, you want to send your authorization, you can then write .set is used for header, then you then say maybe authorization should be equals to your bearer and the token. Okay, but I just want to test just this part. Let's see how it works. So let me go back to my database, refresh and delete that user, then come back here and run the test and see. Okay, so remember I said that it is SuperTest, that if you're using SuperTest, it's going to automatically try and start the server. So which means I need to crash my server before I come and start this one. Okay, so it's going to automatically start the server. Okay, so what is it saying? Could not connect to the database, cannot log after tests are done. Okay, I used get instead of post, sorry. I used get instead of post, so this is supposed to be post. Then let's come back and see. So it's still pointing at posts. What is it saying? What is it saying? It's saying app.address is not a function. Test to see if the registration work well. App.address is not a function. Just deny exit. So this is one of the reasons why, well, if I want to write my own test, right, I mainly use Axios, right? So I will need to deal with like maybe trying to close, for example, this test that was I just run, right? It didn't even close the server. The server was still running even after the test had finished. So in order for me to like avoid dealing with all this, I can actually solve this, but it might just take me a little bit of time, right? But in order for me to avoid this, what I just simply do is I use Axios to send the request, and then I test it rather than trying to use SuperTest. So, right, from here, I can't really tell why. Okay, it's also pointing to the module.export. So let's go to module.export and see app here. If we come here to our auth, or let's just say tasks, we come here, we go to the bottom. Okay, module.exports, not export. Okay, so I guess maybe that issue was from me. So let me start it again. Let me start the test again. Okay. So created successfully worked. Okay. I think response of status actually worked, but response.data didn't actually bring back created successfully, and that's because there's a different way that this handles data that is sent back. So let's see if there's a way I could change that. So if I said response.body, yeah, it's response.body here. I think there's also response.status. Yes, there's response.status. So let me try it, but let me come back here and delete that request, that user. So let's run it, and hopefully the two tests are going to pass.
None of my tests passed though, none at all.
Why?
The first and the second. The first one, I don't know how to connect and run.
Okay.
When I tried connecting and run, it was just there, static, nothing was happening. The second was trying to run, but giving me error. This super test.
Okay, I think let's just use Axios. SuperTest, I am not really like, should I say, too familiar with SuperTest if I want to do my own testing. So okay, so let's just leave it at let's use Axios, right?